This video is sponsored by UGREEN. Siri has become Siri AI with its own dedicated app, and the deep integration Apple promised last year might actually be here. So have Apple finally stepped forward and made Siri the more capable assistant it never quite managed to become? I think we might finally be getting agentic AI baked into our Apple ecosystem. Hi, it's Simon. I know how that sounds, by the way. I felt like I kind of hyped the Siri transformation last year and it didn't go anywhere. But let's be honest, most of us have felt let down by our friend Siri for more times than we'd like to admit. So in this video, let's answer 3 quick things for you. What's actually new, whether it's going to be good in real life, and the part that no one's really saying out loud that's a lot of this looks quietly built on that collaboration with Google Gemini, and that's a very good thing. And stick with me because the most revealing moment of this whole keynote had nothing to do with Siri's features at all, and it tells you exactly where Apple's heading in 2026. Right, Siri, let's go. So first, what did we get? Because all new Siri is exactly the kind of phrase Apple has used before and then, well, not quite delivered. Yep, there is a proper dedicated app at last. Real sessions you can scroll back through, kept private in iCloud, syncing across your devices. And that happens through visual intelligence, where you take a picture and ask something, longer conversations that you hold in traditionally when you ask Siri or say, hey Siri, but also in the app itself, and it was all gathered together. So this is really nice integration. They even mentioned, they haven't done it yet, but they're building this into Apple Watch. Cool, that's a little assistant, and that's not an Apple Watch. Personal context. It searches across your own stuff with a new semantic index. So find that thing I mentioned last week might finally go somewhere. And I think early in this keynote for WWDC, they talked about this new search system being updated. And that made me go, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, Apple are building the foundations for serious agentic capability. It's all about searchable, findable memory and context with AI. And it does look like Apple have been doing some deep work behind the scenes. So that's really promising. Next, we get on-screen awareness. So this means that it works based on whatever you're actually looking at. It can, for example, spot a place in a photo, pull the details, start navigating towards it, all without opening the app. And talking about on-device awareness, they low-key demoed what's happening with Vision Pro, where you don't even have to ask Siri something. You just look at Siri and ask it. It's 3D globule. Or you can look at an object and ask in your 3D environment and ask Siri about it. That's really cool. And well, it might be leading the way towards those Apple glasses if they ever turn up. Come on, Apple, I really want them. App actions. Siri does things inside your apps now properly, apparently. Not just opening them and wishing you luck. So that's a really bad joke. So it could pick a few photos out, send them to a friend, set a reminder. It actually goes and completes. On the Mac, Siri's been tucked inside Spotlight. This is low-key, potentially its most useful implementation, I think, because you can ask it something and a context window opens. You can highlight files in Finder and ask it to look through those files and talk to you about them. It can dig through your mail and messages and work across apps. This is the kind of on-computer AI where AI may actually be quietly becoming the computer in the new AI era. And Apple is finally latching onto that and doing that in ways that only Apple can as a hardware producer. Next, we get visual intelligence in the camera app. Point, ask, and the conversation saves straight back to that native Siri app, Siri AI app. And it's that same trick on Vision Pro that got me earlier. Really cool. It will write in your style too, matching how you've messaged your boss in previous messages versus how you speak to your mates, with system-wide proofreading on top of that. So much more integrated. And that obviously seems to link into how it's recognizing speech better and creating stuff through dictation. There's a much better dictation system. I have this kind of quiet theory that they've done something like acquire Whisperflow or spoken to them about that technology. Maybe Apple have done it themselves, but I swear I heard those rumors and it does that. So it would be nice to see that baked in. And with this new Siri AI app, it looks like we get that familiar long conversation, context window type LLM chat with the working animation while it goes off and agentically does things. A bit like Claude Cowork. Check out my video on the second channel for the ultimate AI system right now. Whether you're using this stuff or not, you need to go and check out Claude Cowork. If you haven't, go over to Systems Made Better because that video blew up. It's like on 500,000 views in about a month. Wild. So thanks everyone for joining me over there. That's where I talk about systems and AI, by the way, if you want to check it out. Next, a quick honest note. The demos were the usual Apple thing. Clean, simple, a little too perfect, and a little too generic, but they got to speak to everyone, right? But it was things like setting a reminder, send a photo. Okay, yeah, I know. You know what I mean? That's lovely, but it's not the higher leverage stuff that I actually need to use AI for. It's just another way of doing things, probably a bit slower. But the foundations do look real this time, which is the moment to pause the hype. Because as exciting as all this is, there is a sting in the tail. But first, as we get more and more work done now using agentic AI on this thing, an iPhone, you might start noticing, like I have, that you get through your battery a little faster than you used to. Over the last couple of months, I've been looking for that perfect, portable and powerful way to charge on the go. And after testing a bunch of options, it's UGREEN's latest Nexode Air 65-watt charger and their MagFlow Air magnetic power bank that's earned a place in my kit bag this year. The Nexode Air has become my go-to charger when I'm out and about. I mean, it's so small, look at that. It's absolutely tiny next to an iPhone and still powerful enough to charge my MacBook. It comes with an excellent braided cable from UGREEN, always very good. And in fact, this is the first product from any brand to receive TUV and SUD S-grade certification for compact high power charging, which is pretty impressive considering how tiny it actually is. And then add to that UGREEN's MagFlow Air power bank to be the first one that surprised me with how thin it actually is. It's about the same width as this thing, my little tripod. So it just magnetically snaps, as you'd always expect, onto the back of both sizes of iPhone, and it supports QI2 wireless charging. Because it's so slim, I can keep using my phone normally whilst it's charging without feeling like I have a bulky power bank next to my head. Now, my one little bit of feedback to UGREEN would be that it does get a little warm at times, but I guess that just comes with the territory. So whether I'm traveling, filming, working from a cafe, or just out and about, these things come with me and they do a fantastic job. So if you're interested in these excellent UGREEN charging solutions, check out the link in the description, and thanks to UGREEN for powering this part of the video. Now, before we get carried away with Siri's AI potential, the reality check. To run the two top-tier on-device Siri AI features, as far as I'm aware, those are the ones that give you advanced dictation and expressive voice customization, you'll need an iPhone Air or an iPhone 17 or newer. Anything older just can't manage those top-end things. You could be cynical and say, ugh, they're trying to make money. Or you could be realistic and say, well, for this high-powered agentic AI, you do need the on-device processing to be able to handle it. Let me know where you stand. You'll want recent kit elsewhere too. The M4 iPad is needed to run the top level AI stuff, or newer, and an M3 Mac or newer for everyone who wants to use this in autumn when it releases around September. Now, to be fair, this is only a couple of the key features, although that dictation does look good. But it's awesome to see that for the rest of these iOS 27 updates, the refinements, Siri AI, these will all be available on the most number of iPhone models yet. What I mean by that is this goes all the way back to iPhone 11, including advanced search, better photo search, speed improvements, and the majority of those Siri AI features. So props to Apple for that. That's a net win. Now let me know where you stand on all of that, because perhaps more tricky is that Siri is not coming to the EU or China at launch, which, sat here in the UK, I'll be watching very closely indeed. And well, no mention of the iPhone Fold we hoped they'd do as a one more thing. As much noise as anyone was making about that, but maybe we'll get something later in the week, but maybe we need to wait until September or later. So it's this slightly odd thing, right? A huge release that's hugely limited at the moment. Brilliant, but only if you live in the right place and can afford the newest hardware. So I will genuinely throw it back to you. Is this a flagship feature and it's fair enough that you can only run it on the top level machines, or is this just a serious issue for Apple again? Because, well, I'm using Claude on most of my devices and it can smash through things remotely and is amazing. Now for the bit I find genuinely interesting, and it's the thing I'd want you to take away even if you forget everything else. Remember that moment I teased at the start? Here it is. This is Tim Cook's last keynote hosting WWDC. His send-off after years at the helm, and you'd have bet on the victory lap stuffed with shiny new iOS and macOS features. And to be honest, maybe a quick hardware drop at the end, but we didn't really get that. The big platform release barely got a look in. Instead, Apple spent a surprising chunk of the stage time on trust and child safety, and I'm very glad to see it actually. Granular controls for kids, screen time tools, the works. And that's the tell. It landed differently for me because it's the exact thing I just saw Keir Starmer say at London Tech Week this morning. That the pace of change can't be an excuse for harm, that tech should adapt to the needs of society, not the other way round. I think we've all been getting a bit worried about this AI race recently, and so I'm very pleased to see Apple speaking up loudly about this need, leaning into that instead of the usual feature fire hose. It's not a side note, it's the whole strategy in miniature. Just look at what the Pope wrote recently about AI and humanity and how tech should be focused on improving the dignity of humans, not chasing profit and progress for nothing. Just think about your relationship to tech when you do this. I mean, it's what this channel's all about. Okay, fine. The new architecture is Apple's own foundational model running on device and on the server through private cloud compute. And from what they say, it is clearly that deep collaboration with Gemini we've all been hearing about on the grapevine, which is actually driving it. It's such an Apple move. No AI for the sake of AI. Slower to get there. I mean, maybe they tried and failed, but I think they've realized something really positive. They don't need to be the LLM solution. They need to be the interface through which you love using it. Built around you, privacy first, easy UI, and actually just plugging it in and making it do things you didn't know it could. This is a good move from them, and it played like a manifesto for doing things their way that properly helps AI shape around you, not the other way round. So while everyone else sprints to ship the biggest, cleverest model going, Apple's quietly competing on where the AI actually lives, in Spotlight, the camera, across your devices, interfaces over horsepower, although they do need the horsepower of Gemini, I think. And I think Spotlight on Mac is the clearest example of it. AI as the interface for a real stint of work. And the privacy is front and center, as always with Apple. Whether that holds up to day-to-day use is the open question. And I've got a bit of an affinity with Apple right now because it feels like they're kind of trying to turn up as the last friend who turns up at the party who you really want to hear from. As long as it turns up with the better experience, then nice one. Which brings me to the things I really wanted from WWDC and didn't get. Apple, please let us choose the model that we want to use inside Siri AI. I would love to see Claude plug into it. Sure, Apple's own for anything private, Claude Opus or something else for the heavy reasoning, let that be my call. That would have been really genuinely exciting and very Apple as the interface, and it's not as daft as it sounds. On the higher end devices, you can already tweak Siri's voice now. Its expressivity, its pace, it's starting to sound very like that Scarlett Johansson character in ChatGPT. Letting you pick the brain behind it is the obvious next step and a reality check because we've been here before. So for the first time in a long time, Siri looks like it might actually be good. The thing it was meant to be. Apple's bet is clear. Let someone else build the clever models and they win on how it feels to use and how it integrates fundamentally into the things you use every day. But I'm not calling it yet, and neither should you. We need to live with it, push those buttons, speak to Siri, push past the tidy demos and see if the whole thing holds up when we actually get our hands on it. So I'll throw it to you. Is this the year that finally we get a good Siri? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to hear from you. I do read them all. And in the meantime, have you tried vibe coding a custom iPhone app yet? Well, you should. It's easier than you think, and you can learn how to do it right here. I'll be testing Siri AI properly the moment it lands, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.